Welcome to Native Bidaské, Native News Online's weekly spotlight on the people making news and leading change in Indian country.
With me today we have Greg Masten and Knickerbocker. They are fairly new to NCAI. Could you tell us your position? First, Greg.
Yes, I'm very honored to serve as the first NCAI Foundation president. So we just launched today on National Philanthropy Day, so we're really excited to be able to support Indian country in this way.
Very exciting. And Dawn, what's your position?
I'm the Vice President of Philanthropic Strategies for the NCAI Foundation.
Well, can you tell us what is the foundation, the NCAI Foundation?
Yeah, so the foundation is going to serve up in a couple of ways to support our tribes and our people. So first and foremost, we want to create better long-term strategies to support the work that NCAI has done over the years. You know, they've been on the forefront of so many issues in protecting tribal sovereignty and supporting our communities on several fronts. So we want to create more long-term sustainability for NCAI as an organization first. Second, we want to expand on the original founding principles of NCAI and create more equitable ways to support our people. So through that, we are going to be supporting our leadership. We've identified another core area to support really elevating and getting our tribal leaders' voices out there so that they can continue to advocate for their communities. We're going to support other initiatives like the Tribal Leaders Leadership Summit that we did at Harvard last year, and then just look at other ways that we can support the tribal leadership. The third key area is our youth. You know, they're our future. They're our greatest resource. So we want to have a youth program that we can really support their growth and their development. And so that's our third core area. And the fourth one is amplifying how we work with and support our tribes. So through that, we will be launching kind of new formats in re-granting and really getting funding out to the ground level where it's happening in our tribal communities. And we'll do that by engaging both the philanthropy sector and the corporate giving sector. And these are both sectors that traditionally have not funded or supported our Native communities very well. And so we're wanting to create more sustainable, long-lasting partnerships.
And both of you have experience with fund development. Tell us a little about your experience, Dawn.
Yeah, so I've been working in the philanthropy sector and the nonprofit sector for going on 20 years. Not to age myself, but yeah, I've been working in just a variety of areas, and nobody kind of really says, "Oh, I'm going to be a philanthropist," or what they are.
A lot of people don't even know what that word means.
Right. Yes. We've found out. But yeah, I started by doing grant writing for causes that really were close to my heart, from grassroots and trying to get funding to the ground in our communities. And from there, I became a grant maker after advocating on a state level for funding for arts and culture and heritage. And when I created that grant program many years ago, I used a model at the time that incorporated trust-based philanthropy, meaning that lowered the barriers, trusted people who were submitting their work to be able to do that, to pay for things like keeping their lights on and their staff, and kind of a holistic approach. And that was great at that time. And then later I worked in the advocacy space to advocate for philanthropy to do better based on that understanding that I had. And now today at NCAI Foundation, taking it really to the ultimate level that I can envision, which is to have tribes create their own strategies on their own terms. So, yeah.
And I think a lot of that educating the tribes would have to take place. I'm sure it's part of the overall vision and plan. Greg, today earlier when you spoke to the General Assembly of NCAI, you talked about the low numbers of actually low dollars that Native Americans receive overall. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, so the number that a lot of people cite is that it's less than 0.5%. So the philanthropy industry, if you're looking just at the foundations, last year they gave away about $105 billion. And if you look at the greater philanthropy sector in the United States, where you're including corporate giving and individual giving and philanthropists, it was almost $500 billion.
Wow.
So when you look at the data, and we believe it, it still needs a little bit more work, but right now it says 0.04%. But when you look at the years that they captured that, there were a few larger amounts that I think probably skewed the numbers a little bit. So I believe it's actually much lower than that. But either way, whether it's 0.02% or 0.04%, it's still not even close to what it should be in terms of supporting the first people of this nation. And so today it really was a call to action of let's work together and let's see an equitable distribution of those funds to Native American people.
That's great, and you announced it today, but you've been actually on staff, 6 weeks or thereabouts?
So yeah, for a couple months. So I started the end of August is when we started putting this together. Yeah, but I mean, what you saw today, that's really a culmination. For example, both Don and I, we've been in this for a while now, and so we've gone through a lot of different strategies and had so many different meetings with foundations and different groups.
But tell us about those meetings with the foundation. That was really my next question.
Oh, okay, sure.
Are they greeting you? I mean, knowing what you just said, the numbers are so low for Native Americans receiving dollars. Are they receptive? They want to hear from Native Indian country, as we call it.
Yeah, I believe so. They have their own mandates, and I believe that they're trying to do good, and they're trying to do it in an equitable way. But a lot of times, it's funny because I've engaged both the philanthropy side and our tribal leaders, and I've asked them that question of, how do they want to partner, or if they have an interest in partnering, and I usually hear the same answer. Both the foundations and the tribal leaders will say, we want to partner, but we don't know who to go to talk to. Yeah. So, and that's part of what this foundation will do, is create better linkages where we can come together and talk. In terms of the foundations themselves, I think what they're waiting to see, or they've been waiting to see, is that entry point, that connecting point, because they themselves don't always have the capacity to go out there and engage 579 federally recognized tribes. So by coming together with more long-term strategies, more larger national platforms, we're giving them new opportunities to look at how to invest. Not just kind of we're trying to get away from like the checkbox kind of thing where, okay, yeah, we do this Native thing. No, let's actually sit down and really develop these long-lasting, sustainable strategies. So we can
And from my position, I would think the National Congress of American Indians, we keep saying NCAI, but some of our viewers may not know what that means, but the National Congress of American Indians are poised, as the organization is poised to really reach those people and be well received, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that NCAI is the best organization to actually do this at the level that we're talking about, because we're talking about scaling now to a whole new level. So that less than 0.5% that we're talking about, if we can just get it to 1%, in that greater philanthropy sector, that's $5 billion.
Well, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. What about 2%? Our national population is 3%. So I think any foundation out there that has a commitment to equity and social justice, they should at the very minimum be giving 3% of that to support Native peoples. That's our population.
Is there any expectation you could reach foundations beyond even the United States?
Yes, absolutely. So we are working on, as you know, some of these issues do not respect borders, right? So if you look at the climate crisis, you look at conservation, you look at even just indigenous human rights. So we've actually been working with President Sharp on a few of these things. He's putting together and helping to organize indigenous leadership on a global scale. And so, and I learned a lot in traveling with her. The indigenous leaders out there, some of them don't have the government structure that our tribes do in the United States. So they really do kind of look to us as examples of how we can work with government entities. We're starting now, there'll be a new platform that we'll be discussing at the World Economic Forum. And I don't know that this has ever been done before, to have an indigenous platform. President Sharp will be part of that at the World Economic Forum. So there will be world leaders there hearing about indigenous perspectives on healthy, sustainable communities and a healthy, sustainable environment.
That is fantastic, because we need a seat at the table and hear that.
Absolutely, yes.
And this is the election year for NCAI, so technically she'll be former president of Fallen Shark, but still to represent Indian country is fantastic. Tell me this: when will tribes be able to maybe pull down some money from the foundation?
So we have several strategies, and I mentioned this as 4 core areas. So and you start to break even those down. So as we're getting out and engaging, we're already talking, I should say this, to some of the top foundations in the world that have expressed interest in supporting Native peoples and some of the top corporations. So as we are working through that, we're kind of more at the planning and development stage right now, but as we develop those deeper strategies, then the investments will come. And then that's when we'll be working with the tribes and getting that out to the ground.
My understanding of foundations, often they really are real specific to projects, or they may even have emphasis areas. Can you speak to that?
So some of them are, but some of them will invest in more social justice issues or power, power building or movement. So it just kind of depends on the funders that you're dealing with. Like with anything, there's different levels, right? So some of them are more specific to a program approach, and others will look at bigger, broader initiatives. And what we're wanting them to do is really look at the bigger, broader initiatives and supporting Indigenous people. So
in terms of the foundation becoming sustainable, long-term, you have some strategies that you're not looking at a one-year deal here. You're looking at long-term strategies.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Our framework is called the Equity and Sovereignty Framework. And it really is a game changer for Indian country and also for the entire philanthropic world. And Greg had mentioned, some foundations have, maybe a project or a program area, or maybe they want to impact a certain geographic region, or maybe they want to give funding in a particular format. But the Equity and Sovereignty Framework is the way that we are approaching philanthropy, specifically for tribal nations. And it honors the equity that Greg mentioned with that less than half of 1%. It right sizes that amount based on the need. It lowers those kind of systemic issues that tribes face when trying to access funding. And then the sovereignty piece is, again, it's beyond kind of a trust-based model, but it really is informed by the tribal strategy that they themselves are putting into place. And also, I'll say that as the Congress, we have a really powerful network of leaders that we're drawing from in all of the ways that we are distributing funds and the ways that we are building the foundation. It's not as though this is a separate part of all of Indian country. It really is Indian country on our own terms.
Well, that's great. It seems to me that there would be some educating the tribes on how to even ask for money.
Outreach is a really important part of grant making. It's something that, for years in working in advocacy, pushing philanthropy to do the outreach necessary to tribes. And so we know what it takes to do that. That will be a huge focus area for us as well. That often means for our tribal communities being on the ground where things are happening. It's also about coalition building. And then we're also working with all of our core partners, like our strategic partners really, that have been a part of the growth and support of NCAI for so long. They've been informed before the launch and are all 100% supportive and on board with the way that this is working.
And Greg, what else do you want to say about the foundation?
Well, I'll actually quote Larry. This is a game changer. both in philanthropy and in Indian.
Larry Wright being the
Yeah,
executive.
Larry Wright. So in our tribal world, and I come from a family of tribal leaders. We're primarily used to federal funding, and that's always been kind of our go-to. And as I said today, we should never let them off the hook. There are specific treaties and trust obligations that have to be protected. But we do have to start looking at new ways to support our communities. We are building some of our own economies and diversifying our economic portfolios. But this third sector, the philanthropy sector, the nonprofit sector, this is a new one that we want to bring to Indian country, but we also want to bring it in the right way. And that's a lot of what Don was talking about, and kind of blending this sovereignty and this equity framework together, because we're taking the best of what philanthropy does and we're matching it to the best of what Indian country does. And the end result will be that we're all better for it, whether we're talking about the environment, we're talking about education, we're talking about people's rights, clean energy, all these different things that we're going to dig into. We really do need to learn to continue to work better together. And in the end of it all, yes, we want to see deeper investments to our Native peoples. We are the first people of this nation. This nation was built off of the backs of our people. So I feel like philanthropy has an obligation to support us first before anything else.
I kind of go way back when we were talking about towards the beginning of this program. Program is sometimes we just don't know each other. We don't know who to approach, how should you approach, and Native Americans, for whatever reason, for so long, basically felt like as if we could solve our own problems. And I just think that I really like this approach, because you kind of shake the rug on it and start over and say, hey, there are some real needs in India, because we know that.
Yeah.
Some of our people are still living in third world living conditions. And I think Foundation will help educate those foundations as to those needs. Yes. Well, I want to say, Chief thank you very much for coming on. And Dawn, do you have any last words you want to say?
Yeah, just miigwech also to you, and this amazing platform that you've given us today to share this news. Yes.
And she said miigwech because she's White Earth.
Yes.
And you're Yurok, right?
Yeah, I'm a member of the
We
Yurok
failed to do
Tribe.
that at the beginning. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine. No, yeah, I'm a member of the Yurok Tribe. I'm also a Levi and Karuk, so I could actually be on any one of their roles.
Okay.
I'm on the Yurok.
And that's California.
Yeah, Northern California. So walk loud, that's a Yurok word.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of Native Bidaské. We'll be back next week. We're going to the holiday season, so please take care of your family. Young people, go visit your grandparents. So, Miigwech, have a good week.
If you appreciate what we do here at Native News Online, we invite you to donate to support our continued work covering Indian country. You can scan this code with your smartphone or go to the link located below this video to donate today. We greatly appreciate your support. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And be sure to scan this code or go to the link below to subscribe to our newsletter. Thank you for joining us today, and please be sure to join us again next week for another episode of Native Bidaské. Miigwech.